And we're back. Hello again, my name is Peter Clutton.
Are we going to do this every single episode?
No, of course not, of course not.
We'll try it.
I was thinking we could have you introduce yourselves in a different order each time, but there's only two of you, so it would get boring.
Well, I wanted to let you go first. So.
Wow, they had iPhones in those days.
Yeah.
Well, actually, no, that's a real-world newspaper that the king happened to find, on the border between the real world and the ninja world.
Yes, it fell through a wormhole, and he picked it up and thought it would be a good read.
Yes.
Okay, so here we can introduce a couple of new characters. People who've watched the episode will recognise Patrick Lamb there as Seal Denden, Yasmin Man as Hime Ryoku, and of course the ever-enthusiastic Joe Buckley as you might be forgiven for thinking that he's not that enthusiastic given how much he has to do in this scene.
You two are going to play tire poker. At least know the rules first.
There he is.
That's probably his longest line in the entire series.
King Thaddeus Ryoku, right?
Yes, Thaddeus Ryoku. Thaddeus is a great king name, I have to admit.
Cool.
He has a few longer lines towards the end of this episode with Alzek, but we'll get to that.
Now, you see, in the wood country, they don't wear crowns. The king wears the king beard, the kingly beard.
Mm-hmm.
They're not crowned with a crown. They are
the beard is a face piece. It's like a laurel wreath for him
That
to
is
wear.
why you're supposed to see the straps and everything.
Exactly.
You're supposed to see this
It's not
fake
like that's
beard.
the only fake beard we had and couldn't get a better one.
It's a great fake beard.
It is actually, yeah.
Yes, it is not only kingly but sometimes judgely. But
Yes.
but that's a different thing.
And from what I've heard, rather ticklish.
Yes, both incumbents of it have come back and reported thusly.
I hope you wash that thing in between.
This is the only episode I think where we do sort of time skip or jumping about in between different points in the timeline.
Yes, in the actual episode, because there are time jumps between the episodes.
Oh,
yes.
of course, yes, off screen.
The astute of you may notice that the opening appears to have changed since the last episode. In fact.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Well, the first opening was just, it's like, oh, we're back again to have fun.
It was
Now we
just
get into
soft
the serious
introduction.
meat.
Now it's action time. Yeah, I'd always planned. I say always planned from a very early stage. I'd planned to use a single opening for the first episode, a particular new opening for episodes 2 through 4, and then a final significant opening for the final episode 5. And that, unlike a large amount of what happened throughout the series, did not change.
Yes, in fact, you actually had chosen the song you wanted to use for the final episode as well.
I had well in advance, and I was thrilled not only to be able to use that when the time came, but to find a really good quality version of it. But we'll talk about that later.
Now, one thing I know you don't like plot. I know you don't like spoiling things in the opening, but if I was, a watcher going into this, who was very enthusiastic about the series and didn't know, or had only seen up to this point, I would say, What's that thing Alzek does in the opening where it all goes blue?
Yes.
Yeah, he doesn't do that.
Indeed. Well,
It's
that
soon
doesn't.
explained, isn't it?
It's true. And I don't think it constitutes a spoiler. It just so long as it's just an image. It doesn't it doesn't explain really what's going on.
Fair dues.
And it's not revealing important guest cast members, or at least important recurring characters.
Fair enough. I still want to know how he got a super move, though. That's one thing.
Well,
when we
you'll
get
find
to
out
it, I'll
later
talk
in this
more about
episode.
it. Well, when we get to it, I'll talk more about it.
Of course, yeah. Now here we get
question.
one of the rare one-on-one moments of character dynamic between Alzek and Leon, which is rather nice, I think.
Those one-on-ones were probably the most interesting to be a part of in terms of filming, because it really gave a bit more insight into the actual characters and how they related to each other, which, albeit, yes, you can see a bit by how they fight with each other. But just being behind a camera and filming that sort of stuff, it's just kind of like, oh yeah, so that's what they're like together. Yeah, interesting. I found it really enjoyable in a really odd way.
Yeah, I mean, I hope that we still managed to retain a sense of humour throughout the episodes, but I wanted the character interactions to start to progress beyond caricature.
Oh yes, well the humour was still there as well.
Because Alzek is very much a caricature for most of his previous appearances before now.
Yeah. we finally actually learned something about Alzek, which is good. Turning signpost the wrong way.
Indeed. Yeah, these text screens, incidentally, were not meant as lazy exposition, but rather as a juxtaposition of the fact that were this any other thing, and in fact were, normally in this kind of thing, these minions would not be given any of that backstory. I just like the idea that there's a huge amount of information to be told about them. I wish I could have typed more, to be honest.
Yes.
But
I have to admit, I know that minions, the nameless, faceless henchmen in our past stuff, have talked before, but never to the degree of personality that these two have. I think out of every single minion, these two are the closest to sort of becoming real characters.
I suppose it's because, we have our villain for the episode, played by Graham Clark here, and he has, a pair of loyal henchmen who are, believe it or not, with him to the end, even if that end is not far off.
Yes. I
Oh,
suppose
wow.
having an actual character with leading them who doesn't don a mask. Yes, I can see that.
I'm glad there's not too many of those running while talking scenes. Walking while talking, that's okay. Running while talking,
Yeah.
I believe.
Sorry, I have to speak up here and take full responsibility for the bad camera work here, because it is me on the camera right now when I was back during one of my holiday sessions.
I wouldn't say bad camera work at all. In fact, given the fact you have to run with a camera, following these two, you're not exactly running slowly by any means, or making it easy for him at all.
I like that Leon is the one who's really urging them back to the castle, not simply because Alzek's a little bit dim, but because Leon has a slightly bigger stake in what's happening at the Wood Country Castle.
Yeah.
Plus, this, to all intents and purposes, this is Leon's spotlight episode, and I mean that in a completely unironic sense.
The scene was always a bit strange to me.
Yeah.
You knew my opinions on this part of it, at least. It was kind of...
Yeah, I just, I don't know. I wanted it to be. I wanted the twist to be that the Wood Country is no longer in any sense the Wood Country.
Oh yeah, it shows that this
and-
development has happened and time's progressed and stuff.
And while I do like the sequence, if I could change something about it, probably the music.
Yes, that was the main thing that seems to jar. At least compared to, well, now we've filmed the whole series. We've got a lot of different music, and generally it's been fantastic throughout the whole thing. That one sort of sticks out a bit as being a bit...
Hello.
Yeah, it's just like, oh, where did this come from? Also the big swirly bit at the beginning of it, but that's a personal gripe more than anything else.
Yeah, it's just
You know
things
what?
are getting quirky.
I kind of like it. And normally I'm the first person to say if I don't like something in this series.
Now there, like we said before, was Alzek about to repeat his trick from the last episode to convince people that he's
Yes.
on the right side, and Leon
I
stepping
think
in to
what
stop
I
him
would've-
blowing his own
sorry.
horn.
I think what I would have done with that sequence of them running around the city would have been put banjo music over it, like dun 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 dun.
Or Benny Hill, something like that.
Something like that, yeah, with no words. But anyway, I still loved it very much.
But yeah, no, that would have been nice. In fact, not just banjo music, use music from Banjo Kazooie.
Yes.
We not done that before?
Very.
Oh, Sean, I
Probably.
think you're in this scene.
No, he's
No,
not.
not yet.
Nope, that in the mask there on
No,
the left.
there. Listen.
Oh yes, of course.
Yes.
Ah, I got you there, guys.
Can we
But,
rewind?
The
I
original
was-
creator knows more about your series than you do.
Get off my lawn.
But no, it's funny, as you mentioned the henchman earlier. The masked henchman, the one who has the full face mask in this episode, is played by 4 different members of the cast on different days. Him on the balcony there was played by Patrick Lamb. Previously in the forest was played by John Cox, and well, you'll see Mr. Sean Robertson here appearing as him later in a couple of scenes' time.
And we have stand-ins and people playing the same role as we need to in this sort of situation. But I think it's ironic the fact that the one who has the most different people, I think, is generic Minion from episode 2.
Yes.
You think that especially would matter even less, but we made sure we got him in all the
The man
scenes.
has a name. It's Prankster.
Yeah.
Yes.
Ah,
Well, I say a name, more like a label, but yeah.
exactly.
It does seem like a title he's been given within, like, he probably has an actual name as well.
Now, for the sentimental that I am, I love this scene. I
I'm gonna put my
particularly,
sunglasses on and look away.
and while I can see the cracks in my own writing turning up as the scene progresses, I love Steve and Yasmin's delivery of it.
Oh, I
Fair
can't.
enough. And then bam, she's right up close to him.
Yes.
Sorry.
And
That
cut,
is always,
and
it's
there she
always
is.
Like, she gravitates toward him. Yeah, it's quite.
He's
quite
got a
bad.
certain Steve magnetism.
He's animal magnetism, one might say.
Mm.
Wolf reference? No. Okay. Oh, shut up.
Oh dear.
The sentimental writing kind of shows mostly in this episode as well. I mean, not just this scene.
Yes.
There's one coming up not that far away, is it?
Mm. Now, I'll tell you what. We'll talk about my intentions for the character of Hime when we get into the fight scene, because that's where I have some issues to go over. But for now, it was just nice to have a female character.
Yes.
And
Which is through no fault of our own. I'm just going to put out there. If more ladies were interested in filming with us, we would be more than happy to create more female characters. Problem is, they're not.
you make it sound like we're intimidating or something.
Oh dear. Well, maybe we are a bit.
Well, with costumes like these, how on earth do you think any of that would be intimidating?
Now follow me, Prankster. Let's go and find some ladies to be in the film.
I love the stealth box.
I would have been an awful stalker as espionage.
No, they can't see you. You can't see them. Sorry.
Of course.
I will speak to them as they cannot see me. They will simply hear a voice.
That's the thing. By espionage's philosophy on stealth, following someone would be completely out of the question, because he wouldn't be. He deliberately cut off his sight from them, just so that they couldn't see him.
He's no good at tailing people, despite his
Exactly.
apparent excellent stealth abilities.
Well, I didn't manage to follow them for any significant distance, but I wasn't detected.
Of course,
2 grams. Ah.
it wouldn't be surprising to have him be detected anyway, considering he's wearing that jacket. He just wouldn't know he was seen.
This is true. Now here we're about to come into the major sequence of the episode, and it's this point where I wish I hadn't slipped into a cliche, but the princess gets captured.
Well, yeah, okay, fair enough. She gets captured, but not really kidnapped in any way. She gets put in a crystal ball.
Yes,
in the
my
same room that
my
she's in.
sole
So they never-
defense is that she does, to at least some extent, fight back successfully. She proves herself dangerous enough to him that he has to, as he says, keep her at arm's length, as he's about to do, and she becomes instrumental to Leon's winning of the battle. I was trying to claw back some of my admittedly not perhaps fully existent writing credibility.
There's nothing wrong with a good cliche, especially in a series such as this.
I agree that there's nothing wrong with cliches in themselves, but given that she is our only major female character,
Yes.
I would have liked to make more effective use of her character.
Well, you could have had Seal be the one that gets captured instead.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that, except that it would make his run of the series basically one long list of tragedies.
Oh, good point. Yeah.
There we go.
Ah, yes, there is, and there is Sean as Prankster, and look at our matching colourful T-shirts sticking out
I was
of.
gonna say, yeah, Espionage has purple, Sean, Prankster has red.
Yeah, we just both happen not to tuck in our T-shirts that day.
I love how I slip into the role of Prankster so seamlessly that you almost think he is me when you see him all the time. So he's not called Prankster anymore, he's called Sean.
The funny thing is, Prankster has relatively few lines, and those that he does have were all delivered in a strange falsetto by the people playing him. And the weird thing is, they all manage to sound rather similar.
Which is funny because I obviously, because I know these people and I saw the creation process a little. I hear Joe's voice, I hear Sean's voice, and I hear who's the other
Patrick.
John's voice as well.
Patrick as well.
Patrick never
Patrick
actually
doesn't say
spoke
anything.
as him. Yes, John, Sean, and Joe all had lines as Prankster.
Yes, and I can hear the inflections, but I was never bothered by the changing tone of voice. It just seemed okay, yeah.
Now that shot of the
Will you stop that, for goodness sake?
Oh, that darn Sean.
that shot of the amulet being thrown is one of the very few close-ups of the Sovereign Leaf that we'll get from now until the very final episode. So, though it is in there as it's the amulet that gets the least screen time overall, I think we should have hung on to it for a couple of seconds extra, or maybe dropped its name a couple more times during the episode, just to nail down the fact that it is the amulet and that it's what we're after.
I can agree with you on that one, because while I could name the Kaiser rank and the Regal Eye, I could never ever, even we're talking about it just now, it still sounds weird saying Sovereign Leaf.
Yes.
Yeah.
In fact, I think. Oh, good God! I don't think that the Sovereign Leaf's name is ever mentioned outside of this episode, and even in this one, only once. Huh. How about that?
I must say, coming up to this fight scene, out of the entire Ninja spin-off series, this has to be possibly my favourite, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
As even considering some of the later ones are, well, obviously spectacular, but this is still one of my favourites, just because I think it's the way that Leon and Gauntlet kind of bounce off each other verbally as well during the fight, rather than...
Yeah. To be honest, when I was writing this fight scene, what was playing through my head was Yu-Gi-Oh! I don't know if anyone's ever seen the Yu-Gi-Oh!
Hence with the Exodia music in the back of it.
Yes, hence my eventual choice of music for it. But every move that's taken, it happens from the perspective that they are forced to stay back at opposite sides of the room from each other, very much like a dual card game. If anyone's watched the Yu-Gi-Oh! Anime, and also everything. Every move apart from this sequence here, which is just them, bumping heads essentially with their own energies, is some sort of counteraction to what's come before.
There's a lot of setting of jutsus,
Yes. So there's a lot of setting up things that will become obstacles to
strategic, as we described previously.
I like to think that strategic applies. I really hope that it does. But that's for
It does
other people
indeed.
to
I
judge.
think this is probably the most well thought out thing, to lay techniques for later use. Granted, not to the use that they were intended when they were first laid by the bad guy.
Indeed.
Because the good guy makes use of it by feeding him with them. But what was I going to say? Yes, I think that fight scene stands out particularly because it was done indoors as well, and it was done very well.
Yes. That's what I was going to say, that throughout the entire fight scene, the reason why it's more strategic and standoffish is because only one direct hit is ever made. The only attack that connects throughout the entire fight scene is Leon's final attack against Gauntlet. Spoilers.
Oh no!
And now this was another very short fight scene that was, in my opinion, a great success.
Oh yeah.
It was trying something a little bit new with, albeit limited, graphical manipulation capabilities, and following on with the theme of cards. Decided to have Seal be a ninja whose sort of battle persona involves tricks using tarot cards.
I get a feeling from Seal as a character that he's a very precise individual and doesn't like wasted movement in a fight.
Yes. Although, for anyone watching who knows tarot cards and is thinking that actually has nothing to do with anything that they mean, I'm perfectly well aware of that.
Yes.
I also know nothing about what the tarot cards mean, but knowing that was all I had to work with, I made it that Seal basically manipulates them to mean whatever's convenient to him in the middle of the fight.
Yes.
Well, I must admit, I agree with what Michael said earlier about Seal being very precise in what he does, which I think is
Yeah.
it's somewhat ironic as well, given how scatterbrained and skittish he actually is
He
as a
can
character
be, yeah.
himself. His fighting style is so precise, and yet him as a character, he's all over the place, really.
I think that's one of the interesting things about some of our characters in this. Harkening very quickly here back to season 2, Galron, who played by Gary Mackay, who does not appear in this series, was, just to put everyone in the mind, Galron was a very crazy, off-the-wall character.
Yeah.
In a different way from Seal.
Literally off the
and
wall, I think, because you had Gary come up with a large amount of his dialogue on the spot, didn't you?
Yes, himself. He actually he helped create the character more than I did, I would say. And he was insanely capable in battle because he was so unpredictable with his fighting style.
Yes.
Now, whereas with Patrick, it's a different dynamic. Seal, it's a different dynamic. But at the same time, just being a bit of a silly character can sometimes have a good advantage in that they can show their true potential later. Anyway, I'm going to
Now-
shut up so we can talk more about this
Now,
amazing scene.
it may just have passed, but given that it's such a unique moment for us, I just want to mention the dog that was on screen.
Sorry.
Just a couple of moments ago. That is Graham Clark's, or was Graham Clark's dog, Sam, who actually, unfortunately, recently passed away. But yeah, we originally had him using what was called a fire spirit to create the portal, and it looked awful. With the effects that I created using the fire effects
I was
that
okay
I had.
with it myself, but I see what you mean. I much preferred the Demi Cerberus.
Yes, and I asked Graham, would it be okay to use Sam as the summoning spirit instead, and he was perfectly fine with that. And it took a relatively short time actually to get Sam to do exactly what we wanted, because he's actually pretty well trained, although it may not seem that way to people who've seen the outtakes.
Certainly, I agree as well that Fire Spirit did look pretty. I'm with you on this one, Peter. It did look pretty atrocious, but
Oh,
Indeed.
okay.
I might just
Now
be
you
now I'm
can-
so used to step to Demi Cerberus.
Perhaps. And here we,
Sorry, you can tell this is Joe Buckley playing it.
because his trousers are
Joe,
falling
I'm
down.
sorry, Joe. I know I promised I would never draw attention to this again. But Joe, no matter which character he plays, with the exception of Kadashiro, who hides his rear end, his trousers always fall down.
And yeah, so this is Joe in the final appearance of Prankstore, and now is probably a good time for Michael, for you to tell us what your thoughts were on Alzek's.
Okay. Alzek is now describing his new
Affliction.
finishing that he's come up with, and also he's describing his physiology as well, his whole 2 chakra thing. What I wanted to know is, when did Alzek learn this technique? I know it was off screen, but obviously he hasn't just thought it up on the spot here.
No, this is a technique that we're imagining he has been developing for some time, and this is its test run.
Okay, so it's been a year since the end of the last series, which at that time obviously he didn't know how to use it.
No, at that time was the first time he'd ever fought without his, or first time he'd fought without his glasses in years. First time certainly that he'd ever been forced to fight without his glasses. And it was the wake-up call that he needed. I'm thinking to develop a technique that could turn that weakness into a strength.
Okay, so let me just sorry, this is just a little bit of
Go on, yeah.
technicality here. Because Alzek is using a lot of energy now in that final attack, does that mean that delays the inevitable explosion that he would suffer?
The idea of that is that it prevents it. The reactor blast is the explosion that you're talking about.
Okay, so he siphons the explosion
he
into an attack.
he expels and combines the chakras at the same time, so that the explosion happens outside of himself.
Okay, but he couldn't. He can only do it so many times before he runs out.
He can only maintain it for so long, because the explosion will not stop once it's started, unless he can put his chakra limiter glasses back on.
Okay, so I
Or
think
get a hold of his
something
Kisera.
to note here is that it does keep going even after the impact.
Yes,
Got
which
it,
is
okay,
which
that's
is
all I
why
wanted to know.
in the scene which we'll see in just a second, we see that it's stops
It's
only
still-
after he's put his glasses back on.
Got it. Understood.
Sorry for not contributing to that discussion. I was too busy enjoying the
I don't.
fantastic fight scene.
Steve was
Sorry.
fantastic in this, and Graham was as well, of course. And there we go. Yes, he may helped. She was definitely
This is not the first time. This is like the third time in the fight scene she's actually done something.
correct. I just want it to be noted that she's not Princess Peach.
Yeah.
Of course not.
I quite like this scene as well because Graham's character Gauntlet just totally loses it, essentially.
Yes.
Yeah.
With that phrase, "You make me forget my manners," is
Oh,
just brilliantly
And then his
delivered.
maniacal laugh, which is fantastic. They both threw themselves at these characters and into the spectacularly cheesy dialogue that I created for them. There we go, and glasses back on.
Wait a minute! He
That's-
blew it out before
yeah.
he put his glasses on.
Fair enough, but
I
The
think
fact
he
is,
was holding his glasses, right?
he was holding his glasses, but that wouldn't have done it. Like I say, he's that bit where he blows it out is just, you know, halting the energy temporarily. Without putting those glasses back on, that energy would just keep going and start all over
Okay,
again.
I'm fine with that.
It's
That's all I
stylish
wanted.
as well.
Yeah.
It's like
It does
I
like
wanted
when
to blow it out.
It's like a Wild
Yeah,
Western
fair
when they
enough.
blow the smoking gun when it's finished the duel or something.
Exactly.
I love how Leon has the Starship Enterprise.
Again, not something I ever noticed.
This was at the time Steve and Yasmin's bedroom at their flat, which only in that shot did we get a shot of their merchandise in the background.
For some reason, I thought that was here. Actually, your house. That is.
Well,
That's
you
the
would
location.
be.
Ah, there,
Can't
right there.
think
That was
that.
the only mention I think of the name Sovereign Leaf.
Oh, we missed it. Here's this penny, love. Go and get yourself a sausage supper.
That's what you call a plot point paying off. Yeah.
Ah!
Did you miss it? I don't blame you.
Oh, no. That's actually Sean
Oh,
playing the
this
body
was fa-
double of Gauntlet, hence why he's covering the. No, it's not.
No,
It's Graham.
that is actually Graham. This filming day, we had Graham come over to the house specifically so that he could lie down, and we would drag him through a doorway.
Which now
Well,
I've done
he
that
got-
a few times as minions and.
I was
and
gonna say,
people.
yeah, he got his own back, didn't he?
He
Lately
did,
in
yeah.
filming.
Later on.
It's not an easy thing to do to drag someone through a door. You think it would be. It just
Yeah.
you really feel like you're just gonna do someone an injury by accident.
So, I will know how I have left. I pardon you.
Here's where most of Joe's dialogue lies as the king.
As I was referring to earlier on, the other sentimental scene which you were quite proud of having included.
Well,
It's sentimental. Don't say so. It is pretty. Sentimental.
no, it's definitely sentimental. I don't know that proud is the right word. I was proud of the delivery for Steve and Yasmin's scene together. This one, I was satisfied with.
I thought it was a really good one, just simply because it. I think it's like a defining moment where exactly.
Hey, dear.
It's a defining moment when you realise the series is not just Monster of the Week. It's not just here's a ninja, let's fight it. There's some serious development and some serious stuff going on in the background.
I aspire to that at any rate.
Oh, okay, but then of course
Yeah, then
Jumping
we
straight
break
back
the
to the-
tension.
It's not the first time. Alzi broke the tension in the Steve and Yasmin sentimental scene as well.
This
where
is
he
true.
through the door, being like, "Sorry, am I interrupting
Yeah.
something?"
I was just heading back down to the hall. Something
Yeah.
that you really don't need to know.
I'm just a third wheel. Can I help?
That's the thing. Dine was supposed to fill that role nicely, but you've gone and done it better than I did.
I do.
Redemption.
The thing I liked best about that scene was the music.
Yes.
And Patrick's hair's changed. A recurring
course he-
theme.
Does that all the time with his special
Yes.
hair change.
Although,
colored.
through merely luck of the order of filming days that we did, we got it to the fewest possible jumps in hairstyle that we could have.
Yes,
This is
it's always,
even
yeah,
though
consistent.
this episode was filmed across 3 days. This is the only day when he came back with different hair. So this is the first hair jump, and as you'll find out at the start of the next episode, this is the same day that we filmed the early scenes of episode 3. And then there's another hair change midway through episode 3, as you'll see again, which has him with roughly the same haircut for 2 days straight of that. So
Not counting this hair change.
Oh, and this one doesn't
in the
count.
ending
Yeah,
credits.
Yeah, you can clearly see he's trying his best to keep a straight face.
of course.
I like the looped footage.
the looped. Oh, it's not looped. It's just sped up.
Oh right, okay.
Yeah, that is one sequence. I just had him stand there holding the pack of cards for as long as necessary, and then
Oh okay.
the reason I sped it up was because I had the cards expelling out at a slower pace, and then sped that up.
It's not often during a series you start looking forward to the credits, but because each of the credit sequences was something different and some new way of doing it, I genuinely did look forward to seeing what you were going to come up with next time.
Yeah, I mean, I always tried to make the ending credits in some way relevant to the episode, stylized in some way. This one, to be honest, the most controversial thing I was thinking while I was doing it was, are people going to be okay with the credits scrolling from the top rather than the bottom? That's pretty out there. Will they even know what order to read them in?
I thought you were going to say...
It looks like the Emperor is floating. Sorry, the King is floating in that picture.
I couldn't possibly comment. He may or may not have been on green screen for that picture.
Oh right.
I thought you were going to say whether the cast members were happy with which tarot cards you'd given their character.
Oh yeah, no, I was adamant about that. The tarot cards fitted surprisingly well. Alzek and Leon as the Earth and the Moon fits their major chakra type that's important for the series. Seal, likewise, as the Sun. Hime, who was her being the star, is a reference both to the fact that she is light type chakra and to the fact that she was supposed to fill Seal's role initially as major third character for the series.
And that was how Seal ended up being created. Yeah.
Exactly. Yasmin sadly was not available for more than one episode, but we still made sure to have her character appear and try and do her justice as you know.
Which I think you did.
Yes, as a major part of the plot rather than plot device.
That Magic 8 Ball was a great director. I will say that much.
Yeah, I felt that you know he was tough but fair, and that we got the job done. And there's a final reference there.
Yeah, I love that black screen.
See you soon for part/episode 3.
All right.